Physical reality is said to be a mirror reflecting our internal state. But what is the mirror principle? Let's find out. Do you want to do what you want? Do you want better money? Welcome to Dream Job Radio. Hi, I'm Daniel Lakstins, and you're listening to the Dream Job Radio podcast. Be sure to subscribe and hit the bell so that way you can always get this awesome content for helping you to create the best life ever. Now, the mirror of reality. Vadim Zeland talks about it in his book, Transurfing, but this was spoken of by other law of attraction teachers, like Earl Nightingale even spoke about this. So what is this mirror principle? Well, again, Todd Ronan and I have a great conversation on our my new podcast, which is called the Ultimate Reality Surfing Podcast. So let's find out more as we look into my discussion with Todd Ronan. Hi, this is Daniel Lakstins, and you're listening to the Ultimate Reality Surfing Program. Now, I've been in the reality business for a long time. I think we all have, when it comes to what we think about, we bring about. But with the Ultimate Reality Surfing Program, we're going to go deeper. We're going to talk about the mirror principle. We're going to talk about the 9 universal principles, like in Hermetic teachings. We're going to go into some really deep reality creation ideas, concepts, and principles. I have a special guest today. It's Todd Ronan. Todd Ronan is an amazing remote viewer. He's an instructor, a teacher. He's a visionary when it comes to how we remote view. Todd, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much, Daniel. It's good seeing you, and you look great today. Thanks for letting me join you on this deep dive excursion into Hermetics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and the mirror principle is something that you hear about not very often. I always feel that when you do hear about something, it means that you're ready for that next level of understanding. Sometimes when you're listening to a teacher speak, your mind is only picking up specific things that pertain to your life right now. That's the reason why you go back and you read a book, maybe 5 years later, it's like you find new things in that book that you didn't get or grasp because you didn't have enough of the knowledge to the level at that time. So have you experienced that too, Ronan?
Yeah, I find that when I go back and look at something, I look at it from new eyes. I look at it both from the perspective of how old I was and what I knew when I read it the first time, plus another overlay of my quest to reality and what I've learned since. So looking at things 5-10 years later is very dramatic and a giant shift and a leap in learning.
Exactly. Yeah, I've experienced the same thing. Even if you get married or you've had children or different things, you may have read things before those events happened, and now the application has changed in your life. When you go back and read it, then you're going to have certain synchronicities of understanding at the specific time. And that's what I find. Hey, but before we get into talking today, the theme we're going to talk about is the mirror principle. And before we get into that, can you tell everyone listening or watching on YouTube what it is that you do, and give us a little bit of a background on you?
Sure. I don't want to take up too much time. I'm a reality forecasting teacher. I have my own website, realityforecast.com, where I teach remote viewing, awakened self-healing, telepathy, exit communication, and a few other different topics that just expand your mind. So it's a different avenue than your quantum surfing, but it's also it helps you evolve and be a better student of what's happening around you, so you can get a better gut feeling and a better track on what's true and what's false out there. And remote viewing is a skill that takes practice. It's not learned overnight. It's a 6-week course that you develop the skills to heighten your intuition through sketching, drawing, and learning how your body communicates not unconsciously and non-physically. It's an amazing course.
And you're talking about your course TAP. And so, yeah, I've actually taken the course a couple of times, and I'm just like, I'm blown away, because you really help us to not only get into our energy and understand things, but the techniques of closing our eyes and when you open them, and then the images that you see and you write them down in a specific way. I mean, it's a really detailed course. And what you're meeting with everyone, what is it, like twice a week, right? Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Yeah, it's a 24-hour course. It's 6 weeks. It's every season. So if you can't take it this time, we just started. There'll be another one in the spring, in the fall, in the winter, and the summertime. Happy to take anybody on. And if you're interested, just check out realityforecast.com. Schedule a free chat with me, and I'm happy to discuss what remote viewing can do and what it can't do for you.
That's amazing. And if you don't understand even the term remote viewing, you can Google that. But the best thing to do is go back to realityforecast.com or maybe watch some of the videos that you've done that you have posted. That'd be great.
Yeah, you can find me over there on YouTube or pretty much any social media discipline out there.
Incidentally, guys, Ronan found me because he was doing remote viewing, and he drew up some things and he showed up to my office one day. It was amazing.
Do that story another day.
You will do that story. But now today's subject is the mirror principle. And this is pretty much getting more popularity because of the book Reality Transurfing by Vadim Zeland. And so he talks about the mirror principle. He's not the first one to talk about the world being a mirror. I think, some of the greats from even the late 1800s, early 1900s had talked about the mirror of reality. It's reflecting you. So if you've read any books from, see, the names aren't shooting off. But
an interesting aside is that Nostradamus had a mirror in front of him and a mirror on the other side of the room. And he would look in that mirror in front of him and see reflections in the mirror behind him in order to get his visions of the future.
Ooh, I love that. So, how do you know much about the mirror principle, Ronan?
No, I don't. I'm anxious to learn more about it.
This is awesome. So basically, what the mirror is the world. And so that's the 3D realm that we live in. When you're feeling different objects, this is 3D. I mean, this is the reflection. This is the reflection of the thoughts, our dominant thoughts over time. So when we're thinking, because we may, basically a lot of the teachers teach that we don't live here in the 3D realm. We have an avatar, which is our bodies, but we are actually beings, energy beings outside of the 3D realm, inside what maybe you'd refer to as heaven. There's so many different terms that are reflective that we're in the 5D realm, but we are enjoying an experience on this planet through our avatar. And so what happens is when we're up there, and there's a scripture that Neville Goddard uses, and I think also John Murphy, but Murphy and both of them always refer to the scripture as above, so below. And so in our consciousness outside of this, which would be heaven or above, or in an alternate dimension other than this one, we are that's where we're feeling and we're thinking, and then we're having all these ideas and thoughts for manifesting. And what happens is that we hold our image in our minds outside of here, then it slowly solidifies into the mirror, which is reflected of what we're thinking about out there into the 3D realm. So that's basically a gist of explaining what the mirror principle is. But in the example that Vadim Zeland says is, if you walk into a mirror and you hold up your hands, you're standing before that mirror, well, you don't even see yourself yet. You haven't even walked in the room because there's a time delay. It takes time because matter is dense and heavy in this 3D realm. And when we're always saying raise your vibration, well, the higher the vibration goes, then you become complete energy, source energy, which means your vibration is so high, well, you'd have to really lower your vibration to create matter, because matter is dense, so it's heavy, whereas what we're made of, the energy, is very light. So it takes time for the mirror of reality to shape what you're visualizing onto the planet, or into this existence. And which is a good thing, because if you're thinking something too quick, you had an idea, then that could be dangerous for people, right? Or you get angry at someone and you get this visualization about hurting them. Well, that wouldn't be very good. You may change your mind down the road and say, oh, I wish I didn't have that thought. So it's good that there's a time delay for the mirror to reflect what we're thinking about. But that's basically the mirror principle in a nutshell.
there's a time delay in our incarnation too. So that feeling that you have towards somebody may have stemmed from 800 years ago, 5 lifetimes ago, and you don't know why you're reacting on it. But because you wanted to resolve that issue that you had with them that came up, 8 lifetimes ago or 800 years ago, you wrote it down before you came to this plane. And you said, I want resolution on this circumstance, which has been plaguing me and bringing me down. And then when you get here, you've forgotten on Earth that you made the script for your action here on Earth already. And so we have to adapt to understand that the free will that we think that we have is we're doing all this to evolve. We're doing all this to become better and to get back up to that higher vibrational state. So don't always say that it's a really bad thing this is happening, because it's probably preordained that it is happening for you.
Wow, that's a really great way to help people to understand. You reminded me of like what Dolores Cannon talks about too, but that's what's so cool about this new podcast, because we were able to talk a little bit more freely about so many concepts. I mean, have you noticed how many concepts of reality creation are there? Yeah, I mean, that of, like, I'm saying different teachings, because it's all the same to me, but for most people it's not, because you have the wizards and witches, and you have aliens over here, and we have God and angels, and then we have our higher selves. So there's a lot of concepts that can get very confusing to people that maybe you've been going to church, but not very much anymore. And you've stumbled across some books, maybe you even started with Think and Grow Rich. And then next thing you know, you're like, which path should I choose? Because there's a lot of different styles of reality creation and ideas. And it's a big rabbit hole. But what advice would you give someone that is just starting to understand?
Well, don't rely on one tract. Make sure that you know where all the train stops go, and practice each one of the reality creation methods to find out which one resonates most with you, because you don't want to be stuck in trying to do the same thing over and over and over again that fails. Try the same thing over and over and see if it works. And if it doesn't, try something else over and over and see if it works. But that repetition will get you to a space where you can create and manifest your own reality through lots of different practices. And I also say people that are, super high gurus are there to take your own energy. And people that are a lot of times, not 100% of the time, but if they're false gurus, then they're there to take your energy and your power and not lead you on a track, but to feed them and feed their ego. So look for people that resonate away from that mindset.
Frederick Dotson talks about that and gives a good warning. He says, but you can tell, just by the students. So if you have a guru, if again, just like what you said, if they're, you can tell they got some problems, they have some issues, but even if you did have a guru like that, it has happened throughout time. Your higher self or your inner being will allow you to resonate, because you may be that person may be resonating at the same level of morality and everything as that person at that time, because you can't attract. I mean, the reason why people can't attract something amazing sometimes, like, I want that, but see, they're not that. So they're vibrating down here because maybe they're still doing some silly things or hurting, not really bad things, but just bad enough. And then they run into people that are not that bad, but bad enough. And they wonder why their life is that way. So if they change themselves, then they'll vibrate at a different frequency, and then they'll attract people or the right guru, because people are attracting that guru because that's the level they're at. But we can look at them as stepping stones. So I always say, don't feel bad. Just keep moving down the road and keep reaching out and visualizing the next step, the next manifestation or dream that you have,
So the course that you've got, do you guys work on the mirror principle? Is this something we could put to practice right now and see if it works for people out there?
Absolutely. The mirror principle I go over in week 4, because then I go into a lot of different things. But the beginning of the course, the first 2 weeks is designing your reality and designing your new 2.0 avatar. Most people spend more time writing out a grocery list every time they go to the grocery store than they do sitting down and just thinking and meditating and figuring out what they want in life and writing it out. And so the course is designed with basically a bunch of templates to help you to design your life, your reality, your 2.0 character, and to give you the principles behind these things. There's a lot of techniques online, law of attraction techniques, but techniques are not as important as understanding the principle, because once your mind, your subconscious mind understands those principles, then it will feed you new techniques that are unique to you as an individual. So like one of the things is SCAT, that's William Walker Atkinson. And he says, just tell that thought to scat, like a cat, get out of here, Well, and that scat helped me out when I read the book, the original time, but then I developed some other techniques that go beyond the scat that help to calm and quiet that ego voice down that is always saying, we can't do that. So and whenever you're dealing with those emotions, you're feeling them, and then you're drawing that. It's like, you can't do that. And then you're not doing that. You're drawing, not doing that into reality. And we've all been there, I think. Not you though, Ronan, right?
Well, it's kind of the case. It sounds like an analytical perception or an overlay in remote viewing, where your left brain wants to interject and say, I know what the answer is. This is what the answer is. And it's poking and prodding you the whole time. And so you have to accept that it tells you something, but you write it down and you move on. So like those clouds of thought, it's like asking the Tibetan monk, how do you meditate without having a thought? And their answer is, I still have thoughts, but I imagine them encased in clouds and the clouds blowing away in the wind. Mm-hmm. They still have them. They're not, without that, it's just making a system where you can adapt to those recurring thoughts so they don't overrun your plan, right?
Man, that's true. Yeah, your course is really good. You just saying that, the heart and mind connection, you got to have the feminine, and that's what we're listening to is the feminine, because the mind is always the masculine, and it's like, oh, let me solve the problem here, right? But you're right. That's what's so beautiful, guys. What Ronan teaches, and it's a long course. It really, and it's a lot of work. But he's with you on it's a group setting. You're on a Zoom call, and he's giving you the target numbers, and then everyone's working together, and it's amazing because you're thinking to yourself, oh man, I can't do this. And then all of a sudden you hold up your picture and Ronan goes, that's it. See, you're tapping in. So his course really teaches you how to listen to that feminine aspect, which is really connected to the universal consciousness. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's really good, Ronan.
Can I ask a question that might be off base, but how does our ability to have free will interact with the idea of the principle of mirrors?
Well,
are we violating
the mirror principle overlaps with the concept of I also teach quantum jumping. So in reality, it's funny too, because they just had a report came out a few weeks ago about this kid that's a physicist, and we're talking about time travel, because there's two principles in time travel, but the only one that makes any sense that also corresponds to everything we know for the past several thousands of years of people that do reality creation is that there is the multi worlds theory, or there's a couple of names that they have for it, but basically there's there's an infinite amount of alternate realities where we all exist. With our avatars are all in those different realities, but it's infinite. So there's a reality of you when you were a military person. There's a reality that you're a doctor. There's a reality that you're, don't want to say homeless. Yeah. Don't draw that in reality. No, but there's a reality, that you married this girl or you married that guy, or all these realities out there. And when we're truly manifesting or creating, it's actually, we're choosing which timeline, lifeline, which alternate universe where you exist with the manifestation that you want. So the concept would be to vibrate, meaning your thoughts is energy, and then your heart, when you're feeling, when you can tap into that feeling, like tap into the feeling of holding the car, the steering wheel of the, Mercedes Benz or Ferrari or whatever car you want, and you're holding that feeling, then your body vibrates and it pulls you into that alternate reality, into the avatar where you already exist. And that is also what I call the Akashic Records, because everyone talks about the Akashic Records. Well, the Akashic Records is all the multiple timelines and dimensions that have ever existed or could ever exist. They all exist at the same time simultaneously. And that also explains why if someone's foretelling your fortune, well, they're actually only seeing one of the timelines. There's so many of them. So you do have the choice of what you think about. There's only two things that you can really control in reality, right? Is how you respond and what you choose to think about. So, but anyways, that's it. Yeah.
I have a personal anecdote and a question. So the personal anecdote, this is about 30 years ago. I was in Detroit, driving down I-94, going very fast, about 110. And the person ahead of me.
That is fast. I was expecting.
The person ahead of me stopped. And I was probably going to hit them and probably going to be in a terrible, terrible accident. And something happened in that car. And I slammed on my brakes. I swerved to the left, not looking to see who was behind me, but part of my car went through their car. And it didn't shear. We shifted our reality, the car that I was in, the body that I was in, and it could have been a terrible, terrible accident, but I was through the car before I was able to completely stop. And then I got over the next lane. So part of me jumped reality or phase shifted in a way that allowed me to be safe and not be impaled by the car that was stopped dead in front of me.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
My question is then, does your course teach things? You said quantum jumping. Can you give people a better idea of what that is and how they could what they could achieve? More about that, I think, is interesting.
Well, and that's the thing, though, is so even quantum jumping. So all these concepts all overlap from different teachers. So my program is very in depth. So that way we don't get confused. You can, like you said, you can choose whichever works, but it's all the same thing. That using the mirror principle of visualizing is the same thing. And then it reflects. It's the same as that you hold your vibration in a meditation. And when you come out of it, you're being pulled you've worked at pulling yourself into an alternate reality where the manifestations are, a lot of times the universe would have to rearrange everything, for you to manifest something in this reality, then the universe or God would have to change a few things in your past. So when I teach time travel in week 3, then what happens is that you go back, and if you change something in the past, and when you come forward, if you held that vibration correctly, sometimes I've had a restaurant disappear. I mean, it was gone, and then came back like 12 years later, but it was never like I jumped into an alternate reality where different other people, most of my family members weren't, that they're still back there. At least their avatars at that time were still back there, whereas I jumped into other ones, and Leah did too with me. So she was pulled with me, and it's happened several times. But when you're in a precarious situation or a fearful situation like the one that you were in, and you have some of the abilities that we have developed, everyone has these inherently, then we can, it's like slow motion happens, and then what we're visualizing, then it happens that way. But when it comes to just doing this on a normal level, whether you're writing out your grocery list of what you want, then the timing is going to be a little bit different for most people. But it's still the same though. The mirror principle, quantum jumping, time travel, as I teach it, it's all the same thing. It's just another perspective of looking at things. I look at the aliens that we see and hear and people are dealing with as the same thing as Volume Zealand's pendulums, or as I call them, the thought vortexes. You have negative and positive energy thought vortexes, and so they suck your energy. So we have a lot of things that we're dealing with in reality that most people don't have a clue about, because it's not taught since we're young. But these things were taught thousands of years ago, and it goes way back. And you know that because you can look back there in time with your program.
So the ancient mystical schools, you're right, did teach this type of thing. And people that tried to tell you about these things were burned at the stake, because it was such a closed society that Giordano Bruno is a good example. He's one that sort of turned his back on the church and tried to tell people what it was that he knew, but it was very high cerebral magic that they were manifesting behind the scenes. And when he started to tell people about that, well, the church heard about it and they decided to burn him at the stake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For the releasing the secrets are punishable by death back then.
Well, even the same type of concept is taught by magicians, just regular magic magicians. It's like, well, we can't tell everyone our secrets and things like that. But the concepts throughout time. But yeah, the Hermetic teachings is what I really love too. Thoth and then Hermes, and but it is all the same. It's different because it's from a lens from the past, and what we've done here in the future is we found some of the missing pieces of that puzzle, and we put them together so we can help people to understand it. But it is up to the person at the time. Like right now, if you're listening to this, you found this podcast because you're ready for this level, because we're talking a lot deeper than most people that talk about law of attraction.
So I'm trying to wrap my head around your quantum jumping. Is there a reality where, and the answer to all these questions are probably yes, is there a reality where I am a doctor?
Oh, absolutely.
Is there a reality where I am an airline pilot?
Absolutely.
Is there a reality where I own a successful gallery that showcases art? Absolutely. And through your course, is there a way for me to shift the frequency and to jump over and access the knowledge of that guy that's me there and bring it back? Or does it teach we're going to leave the reality I have now behind and become that guy? Because I think that's a fear that a lot of people have in quantum jumping, that they're going to leave their life behind.
Well, and that's no, you can't go back though. Well, you can, but most of the time you don't ever want to go back, because if you're manifesting something right now, that means that either you and your higher self, this is the direction that you're wanting to go. You want to jump into this alternate reality. And it's going to benefit you no matter how bad it is or how much hell you'll go through. It's going to benefit you in the future, and your life is going to keep going. So it doesn't matter. It's like, well, I'm already getting old. I'm 70 years old now. It doesn't matter, because you're never going to die. We're going to keep moving. It's just that you kind of wish that you could have all the money, have the relationships you want when you're like 20, and just party. But then would you get any of your work done? Would we really be benefiting towards the planet? So that's the reason why some of these things, but all those timelines all exist. The question is, which one do you want to be right now? And you pretty much, like, you already know this too, Ronan, is we make out a plan before we come to Earth. And we already know that our minds are going to be erased, but we think we're badasses, which we are. I mean, all of us are. If you're listening to the show, you're a badass too, because it's to go through the hell that we have gone through. That means we're pretty powerful. It's the ones that aren't as strong that's not going to be able to survive. And if you don't, if you're the strongest person ever, would you want to come and play with kids' toys? Or if you're the most powerful person, would you want to come and have a challenge in your life? So people that are going through hell, so to speak, quote unquote, yes, they're causing it to themselves because of what they're thinking about. But once they get aligned and vibration up, then they're going to be so much of a better person outside of the earth. And that's the reason why we come here, is to get more powerful, wiser, stronger. But yeah, I don't know. It's a pain. Yeah.
Reminds me of the Jet Li movie, The One, where Jet Li traveled to different realities to kill the version of himself to gain more power, so that he was the one ultimate Jet Li in it. I wanted to make an observation about something you said a moment ago.
I have to watch that. I've never seen it.
Never die. And
yeah.
Can you, I think people, said, what did he say? So what do you mean by we never die? Or a 70-year-old?
Well, your physical avatar will expire, but you as who you are is a never-ending story. You're gonna we come back, and sometimes we don't have to. I mean, we can actually go. My understanding, Ronan, you can explain this, is Earth is one of the most unique places in all the galaxies of the universe. Why? Because we get our memories wiped when we come here. We can't remember who we are. But that's the challenge that we decided to take.
But thank you very much. If people want to get in touch with you, how do they do so?
They can go to ultimaterealitysurfing.com.
www.
Yep. You have to type in the www. Ultimate Reality Surfing, or you can just Google my name. Ultimate Reality Surfing will come up. They can check me out on TikTok. I do respond to people. It's best to always just ask or say something on one of the videos, because I'm always looking at the comments there, and I always respond personally. And so, but otherwise, you can also go to my Calendly. If you go to Ultimate Reality Surfing, you can actually sign up for like a 20-minute Zoom call, and we can see if you'd be a good fit for the Ultimate Reality Surfing course. But until you get that, you should download my free Designing Your Perfect Reality worksheet. And so you can get that for free on the website too. How about you, Ronan? How can people find you?
Oh, they can find me all over the place. Reality Forecast, that's where it's at. Check it out there. Oh my God.
Oh no, who else did they find? Did they find Daisy? Maddie was just barking earlier too. All right. Well, hey guys, thank you so much. You've been listening to the Ultimate Reality Surfing podcast. It's brand new. So keep coming back, and you're going to find amazing things that will help you design your perfect reality. Be sure to give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so that way you can hear the next podcast that comes out. Run over to ultimaterealitysurfing.com and download a free copy of Designing Your Perfect Reality. And also check out Ronan's show. It's Reality Forecast.
The Reality Forecast Show at Reality Forecast.
The Reality Forecast Show at Reality Forecast. Awesome. Well, thanks for being on the show, brother.
All right. I'll see you next time, guys.
All right. Peace.